Hello YouTube viewers, welcome to my channel Science to Technology. In today's show, Computer Wednesday, we're gonna talk about keyboards. So let's dive right into it. Now, first thing you have to understand why I'm talking about something as basic as a keyboard. Well, reality is this is the first thing you use on a PC. Does not matter whether it's a desktop or a laptop, you utilize a keyboard. And it does not matter whether it's a low budget PC or a high-end gaming system, you will use keyboard. So this is a very critical aspect of it. And on top of that, utilizing it incorrectly or having a wrong keyboard that does not suit your needs will lead you with physical injury, as in actual injury, as in you have to go to actual hospital to get it treated, and you may be kicked out of your job because it may take like 3 to 4 months to heal. So this is serious thing. And on top of that, once you do everything right, basically you fix your posture, you find a keyboard that is just right for you, it will feel good to use. Basically, you will notice yourself that, hey, let's say you are writing scripts, you're like, hey, I will write longer scripts or detailed scripts. I'm not about programming, I'm like video scripts and all that, because you'll enjoy utilizing your keyboard. You're playing games, you will play it for longer. So and you're programming, you will program for much longer. So in those sort of scenario, it actually boosts your productivity. And we spend many hours per day, and I'm pretty sure most of you watching this system basically video can say the same. It's like, yeah, I utilize keyboard for 5-6 hours a day, for 2-3 hours a day minimum. So that's the reality. Like, this is the primary thing that we utilize to do heavy lifting work. So what are the parts of a keyboard? Well, keyboard, the first thing that you interact with, the thing you touch, is keycaps, things that are actually moving up and down. Now, there are two core aspects that you must think about. First is material, which material it's made out of. Second, prints. Now think of it this way: if you have very good eyesight and you have mostly memorized your keyboards, you don't need to know this thing. But what if you don't know keyboards, or you don't know where the tilde key is, or what even is a tilde key? So in those sort of scenario, you will need prints, and you need to look at it. And if the prints are very small, it would be very difficult. Or if it's not backlit, it may be difficult if you are working in a dimly lit environment. So these sort of things play a very crucial role, because that's the first thing you interact with. Then we come to the switches aspect, because that's what is giving you the actuation. Now, a very low budget system are generally rubber dome keyboards, and they are very basic, cheap, low budget, don't think about it kind of equipment. The first thing people upgrade to is into a mechanical system. Now, primary reason for that is they generally have a switch that operates a bit differently, and they are built far more professionally. Their spring system is built far more professional, their clicking mechanism is far more robust, so they literally feel much more oomph, where it's like, no, I'm doing some stuff. So they come in generally flavors. So they have 3 flavors: tactile, clicky, and linear. I'll talk about them in future. Then you have to worry about mounting, because if you go really deep into a system, you may find there is a PCB and then have individual key back. Now you may be like, why the heck I need to worry about individual key? Well, think of it this way: you may be utilizing your keyboard mainly for gaming. You still do a lot of time trading and all that jazz, but what you do primary is gaming. So gaming keys, you may want them on hair trigger, like very little touch, and it does the job. So in those sort of scenario, you need to use a different switches that allows you to do that, or some keys that, let's say for example, your space bar or shift, or things that are you want to be damn sure, like utilizing any symbols in programming, where you're like, dude, if this symbol is inserted in the wrong place, it will corrupt the whole program. You want those buttons to be a bit more robust, but you want your alphabet to be hair trigger. So you can do that. That's why people spend money on building this sort of thing and figuring out which switches is right for them. Like a starter would be like, this switches is good for everything, and as you spend more time, more effort, more energy into the system, you're like, I want, like, you could literally end up in a scenario. Some people are actually that knee deep into the system, where they're like, my number pad, it's completely different kind of key switches. My F functions, basically F1 to F24, is completely different, things of that nature. So that's why you may be worried about like what kind of mounting is. Like if you buy from Logitech or Corsair or any big budget brands, they generally give you solder system. Now that's good for starting, but it does not allow you any modification. So you may want to bought in some small manufacturers, but they still make a lot of keyboards, and they will have hot swappable terminals. Again, it will allow you to fine-tune it exactly how you need it, not by some research group is like, we think tactile blues are the most amazing thing. Again, it may be amazing for most people, may not be for you. So in those sort of scenarios, people want that flexibility. Then PCB also plays a critical role, because if you do not have good PCB, all you're gonna have is a basic backlight. If you want per key RGB, or you want a very complex RGB, where you can literally have like, if this button is pressed, it changes the output if the macro is activated or not. If you are on second layer, it changes the backlight. Like, you can do amazing things with backlight. Most time people don't do that, they just want to have fancy things. Again, It's your money. You want it to look fancy, go for it. So those sort of things directly contribute by PCB. And if you have very good PCB, it may even come with drain holes. So in case your keyboard ever ends up in a scenario where water falls on it, water can go through directly through the keyboard without damaging the PCB. Then we come to the logical aspect of it. Now you may be like, keyboard have logic? Well, a lot of logic actually. If it's specifically a mechanical system, non-contact, basically if it's context-based system, it will have debouncing. Now how quickly that debouncing is done, that will give you that feeling how quick the keyboard is. So if you find a system where it's like, contactless keyboard, generally it will not have debounce, so it will be inherently bit faster. And how faster? That's like you need to be ludicrously high grade CSGO player to notice that. Most people are way beyond noticing that. But then you could have another things that most people will notice, like N key rollover. For example, if you press, let's say, Windows key, you may randomly notice Y key is automatically triggered because that's what on the same grid. So like these keyboards generally have what we call microprocessors. These microprocessors have pins, IO pin, general input and output, like how Arduino has, and many people do build their keyboards out of Arduino now. But there is an issue, they do not have enough pins. Again, a microcontroller that has 100 pins or 200 pins can be done, but it will be expensive. So to manage it, people use what we call matrices, like rows and columns. They will have rows and columns, and utilizing 10 by 10 you will easily able to achieve, let's say, 100 keys. Consequence, because you are utilizing same law for many things, you could have a scenario where things can be randomly triggered, which we call ghosting. So anti-ghosting is either you design in such a way that traces are the most likely pressed keys will never overlap, or you have a better algorithm where it's either a microprocessor is doing advanced computation, doing it so fast that it can be damn sure whether it's triggered or not, or some other system. So these things are something that you will notice that once you buy a high-end gaming keyboard, it's like N key rollover, anti-ghosting, 1000 hertz pooling rate. All those things translate to that. It's like, how good is the logic, basically the microprocessor in the system. Now keycaps, now this is the thing that you interact with. This is the thing that directly is going to touch you. So knowing about this is the first thing. Well, ABS is generally good style. If you do not know what your keyboard has, it's generally ABS. Now ABS does look good, especially if you are a fan of colored keyboards and you're like, I want my color to be keyboard color caps to be very vibrant. I want bright blues, bright reds, or things of that nature. 99% of the chance you're gonna buy ABS simply because they are the easiest to get brightest, as in color saturation is really good. However, they do come with a consequence that they become smooth after use. So basically, if you keep using them, the key tops will become very smooth and it will become very ugly. And on top of that, it will also feel gross simply because if you have something flat, it becomes a bio breeding ground. So you do not want flat surfaces, as in completely polished surfaces. You do not want that. So ABS is good, but does have some limitations. So people, once you go bit high end, you will go into PBT keycaps. Now PBT keycaps are not liked by everyone, but most people do like it simply because it does have a much rougher texture, so your fingers do not slip from it, and no matter how many times you use it, no matter how many years you use it, they will never become as shiny as ABS. It simply does not happen. They have far much higher resistance to wear. But then why does everybody uses that? Well, A, it's expensive, B, it shrinks when you actually eject them out of the mold. So molding has to be built in such a way that it can compensate for that. So they have warpage. So even a keyboard that is I'm talking model M, model F kind of system, where they will have PBT keycaps, they will never make space bar out of PBT because it will shrink too much. So PBT is far more rougher, but it does last longer. One thing you will notice is backlighting is becoming far more important in modern keyboards, and I do understand the appeal of it, especially if you want to enjoy your movie and you're like, hey, wait, where is this screenshot keycaps? And if you have black keyboard, now you're like, no, I can touch type. Most people can't. So backlighting is another thing. But consequence of backlighting, you need something that has two properties: A, opaque, B, transparent. So how the heck people do that? Well, they don't. They just simply make a transparent keycaps and paint over it. Utilizing a laser, they etch the places where you want the key to, basically the legend starts to shine through it. So consequence of that, the more you use it, the more you wear it out. And if you have sweaty fingers, you will notice in as quick as 1 to 2 years, the keys just become blobs. So that is not acceptable. Now if you are pro and you're like, no, I want the best of the best, or you want just simply something that you can pass down to your kids, because keyboard can last a very long time. If built correctly, keyboard can easily last 30-40 years. So in those sort of scenario, you may want to invest in what we call double shot modeling. Now this is the reason why many keyboards that are from 1970s and 1980s still look great, is simply because they have this. Even if the keyboard has been used by bankers for let's say 30 years, it will still be amazing simply because there was no ink on the key. The key had a different plastic. Basically white color plastic was used for the legend and black black color plastic. It was too short injection mode. Consequence, it's expensive. Benefit, they're literally it will take as in like centuries to wear them off flat out. And nowadays, because of backlighting importance, you can easily find PBT keycaps which have basically PBT system where you can have transparent also, so it does not have this issue where your keycaps will become just blobs. So that is something amazing. And those sets you can buy from Razer, Corsair, or some cheap Chinese system where it's surprisingly cheap, as in like $10-20. Then we come to the switch aspect. Keycaps you touch, switches are that gives you the feeling. That's the whole point of it. Now one thing you must understand, once people start to go into it and they become very passionate about it, but at the end of the day, it's like food. It's up to your taste, because your finger has to interact with it. There are people who are like, if it's not basically linear, I'm not touching it. If there are people who are like, if it's not clicky, I'm not touching it. If it's not tactile, I'm not touching it. So again, all of them are valid because it's your money, your keyboard, you have to like it. As simple as that. Now, 3 core categories of basically having tuk, khatang, and smooth. Now be mindful, these things are generally in contactless basically contact switch systems, so they do have limitations. So even the linear one cannot be very smooth. Now if you want linear switches that are very smooth, as in like as smooth as possible, you have to go into what we call contactless switch design. So there is no physical contact like this. It could utilize magnets for Hall effect sensors. It could utilize optics for light strike system, where you're like, you have a laser beam and something cuts the light. That could be one way of achieving that. It could have capacitance, which was utilized before basically model M keyboards from IBM. It was utilizing F keyboards. There are many things. There could be even inductive keyboards, there could be capacitive keyboards, there could be magnetic keyboards, there could be optical keyboards. And that, other than optical, we used to have all these things in computer industry. Nowadays most of them have been like forgotten, and people only rely to basically normal contact switches. But there have been a resurgence. It's like, this is one of those things that I can say, like in 1970s we had far more options. Like I have provided a YouTube channel down below, please do check it out. Your mind will be exploded. It's like how amazing keyboard technology we used to have, as in like we had N key rollover in 1970. So we had amazing technology. Nowadays, like technology has been like cheaped down to such a point where it's like these 3 won't be only option and all are contact option. I'm like, again, that's up to you. Now be mindful, because it's a feeling kind of thing. You can go YOLO on it, and especially that's why another aspect of people making their own system, especially programmers, they could be like, dude, I want the keyboard to tell me which button I'm pressing. So you will have a scenario where it's like linear 45 gram, basically the actuation force that you have to worry about would be my alphabets, and you will have clicky 80 gram system for things that you do not want to press accidentally. Or you could have like something even lighter, like linear 35 grams. Up to you, completely up to you. That's why people want to spend on money on PCBs that have what we call hot swappable keycaps. So you can start out with cheap and best. Then once you learn your ropes and you figure out what kind of keys you like, you can fine tune it the way you like. And then you will reach a point where you will texture the keyboard. So hey, numpad has a separate kind of feeling. Function rows have separate kind of feelings. That's the whole point. And only thing I would urge you is test before you buy. Because be mindful, these things are very personal. So you may watch like 10,000 videos, like this keys are amazing. You will buy it like, what the hell is this? So be mindful, it's about your personal taste. Now another aspect, because this thing is so personal, like think of it as like chair. Like in the early days, people wanted to buy just a chair as cheap as we can buy it, and then did not worry about it. But once you start to have spinal injuries, you're like, yeah, I should spend time on chair. So same goes with keyboard, because this is the thing that you interact with the most. You want it to be optimized for you. So sometimes people go like this, I love this keyboard, this is a sundial keyboard. Now again, it's not something you can buy, somebody built it and it's amazing. It even has F24. Yes, if you go into Windows default driver, and I mean as back as IBM personal computer, it had F13 to F24. Heck, you go into Microsoft driver, current driver, it still has that. You go into any program and you program F13, like if by creating a custom keyboard, it will detect it. It's like press F13 for this shortcut. So you can have all that, and he built it like this. Then he had macro systems where you can have commonly used macros. Now I'm like, why would I want like something Control C, Control V in a key systems? Well, it will reduce your repetitive strain, because this Bharatnatyam that we do is like tick took, it looks good, but it's like it's painful for your body. You want just took everything to be one action. You do not want 10-20 action. And if you have a lot of keys, you can even do a very complex system. Basically, people program in such a way, like, else if commands. It's like you type this button, else if is directly done, cursor is in the middle, you type your advanced thing. And like I used to utilize a smaller variant of that for my YouTube replying YouTube comments on my main Hindi channel, whereas like I have tried to reply to every single comment till I have crossed 100k milestone. I did succeed, but it was damn tiring. And if I did not had, like, just press this button for this kind of comment, press this button for this kind of comment, it would have been way too painful. So that's the whole point of it. The only thing is the limiting factor is basically how much money and how much time you have, because people go bonkers on it. This is like big keyboard. This is for Terran from LTT. And now nowadays the focus is making as small as keyboard as possible. Like these keyboards are like, I'm like, half of the keys are not even there. Like this makes 60% look big, but how the heck programmers use that? Well, they have buttons that triggers layers on it. Now you have to know these keyboards. Like these keyboards are not something you can give average person and they can do. Best they can do is do typing on it. You have to learn these keyboards. You have like 3 layers, 4 layers, or 5 layers, or sometimes 8 layers. But benefit is once you learn that, your fingers have to barely move and you can type at ludicrous speed. So people do spend time on it. It's a very good hobby that does yield useful rewards on top of that. And people have gone YOLO on it. It's just like sometimes like, I want as much RGB as possible. Sometimes people are like, I want aluminum keycaps. Yes, they do exist. Yes, more than enough people do buy it. So you can go YOLO on it. This is one of those things that if you do it, you will be rewarded by your own labor. You're like, that was something amazing I did. And you don't have to be limited by it. Like you build one keyboard for one thing, you build another keyboard for another thing, you can go YOLO on it. There is a lot of options there. So this was my presentation on keyboards. I just wanted to touch the surface about it. So hopefully you have liked it, learned from it. In that case, please click the like button, share it amongst your friends. That will help me a lot. If you didn't like it, didn't enjoy it, I urge you to press dislike, press it twice to show me extra disappointment. Please leave a comment because I do try to reply to all of them. Subscribe, press the bell icon if you're free. And as always, thanks for watching.